Welcome back to the A4Q Testing Summit. If you've been with us throughout the whole day, we're about halfway through our schedule right now. And with me for this session, I've got Lovelesh Beeharry. He's the founder and president of the MSTQB and a dear colleague of mine. And I'm so excited to hand over for him to share about the Selenium 4 certification. Lovelesh, over to you.
Thank you, Abby. So thank you for tuning in this session. We are going to talk about Selenium 4 certification. So that's under A4Q. So this certification is really about learning Selenium from scratch and so on. So we'll explore the certification itself. We'll talk a bit about Selenium, talk about why choosing Selenium, and also how to do the exam. So let's get started. So first of all, I wanted to wish everyone who's tuning in today for the session a happy International Testers Day. Today we are celebrating you. So thank you for being in the quality engineering field and software testing field. So thank you for keeping commitment in this field, for making it professional, for making it as well challenging and innovative. So a happy International Testers Day to you all. All right, just a quick intro then about me. Right, so I am Lovelesh. So I'm the CEO of Global Exam Service Limited. I'm also the CEO of Se4 Mauritius. So this is where I'm involved in training, and I'm also involved in administration of the exams for different schemes. I have 14 years of experience in software testing, international speakers for different schemes, for different topics as well, mostly centered on software quality, test automation, entrepreneurship. That will be my core topic for conferencing. I've been working over some major companies, 6 major companies, internationally distributed in different geographic region of the world. I'm experienced in manual testing, in automation testing, performance testing. I'm the founder and current president of MSTQB, the Mauritian chapter of the International Software Testing Qualification Board. On ISTQB, I'm involved on a different working group. So that would be marketing working group. I'm the chair of the marketing working group. I'm a member of strategy working group as well. I'm experienced in manual automation and performance testing. I write syllabuses, I write exam, I review as well artifacts made by my colleagues. I'm an ISTQB trainer, Selenium trainer, quite some experience in automation as well with Selenium and other tools. And I've been involved in managing teams for different competencies in terms of manual testing and automation testing. So that's a bit about me. Let's dive into the subject for today. So our subject is under the hood for Selenium 4. We are going to talk about a brief on Selenium, an introduction about Selenium, what it is, and what has been its history, why Selenium, why choosing Selenium, how is Selenium 4 a game changer, so what are the innovative features that Selenium 4 actually brought to market, and how is the certification looking like. So let's get into it. A brief about Selenium. So all started 20 years back. So it was in 2004, where the first concept of automation tool, the first core of the Selenium was conceived, was JavaScript based. And that was in the private company. Then in 2006, there was an improvement to it. So it was getting closer then to a release version of 1.0, and there was the development of the Selenium ID. Selenium ID is the record and play feature of Selenium. So it's where newbies in test automation will start. They will start by recording and playing script over and over again and learn how Selenium actually processes those interaction with the web. Then in 2007, there was the conception of the higher API, so that would be Action API, allowing Selenium then to interact with elements using an API-driven mechanism. So that would be then the birth of Selenium WebDriver. That's the second flavor of Selenium. Then in 2013, we got closer to a release 2.0. Then in 2016, 3.0. So there was continuous improvement, continuous addition of new features as well in those areas of Selenium. Then in 2021, we got the release 4.0. Even as of now, we are still on version 4.0. And the continuity is that there is continuous injection of features, continuous improvement, optimization of existing features, so as to keep Selenium relevant to the market and to the industry. So that's 20 years of Selenium. So let's talk about now, the present. So Selenium, as of now, we are currently in version 4.24.0, right? There are multiple language bindings for the major programming languages. For example, we have Python, we have Java, there is PHP, Ruby, C#, .NET, JavaScript. So a whole lot. There is around 13 programming languages supported by Selenium WebDriver. It exists in different flavors, like I said. So we have the ID, record and play, we have the WebDriver, we have the grid. The grid is used to decentralize the execution of tests, so we can execute tests from one hub, and it gets distributed to other nodes connected to the hub. So we have the capability of parallel execution, parallel test execution. Then we have also the cross-browser capability of Selenium. So this is one of the key features of Selenium. It is compatible with quite some browsers already. For example, we have Chromium-based browser like Google Chrome. We have Edge, Firefox, Opera, Safari as well. So these would be capabilities of Selenium to execute the same test with multiple browsers. We have also locator diversity. Selenium is compatible with quite some locator strategies of how to find web elements on a web page. For example, we have class name, we have partial text, we have ID. Those are the common ones. We have XPath, CSS selectors, friendly locators as well. That was introduced in 4.0. So we have quite some diversity of locating elements onto Selenium. And given its maturity of 20 years, Selenium is compatible and blends seamlessly with a lot of popular test framework. A few test framework which is coming to my mind is PyTest. We have NUnit, we have TestNJ, we have JUnit. Those would be test framework which works perfectly with Selenium. And this, again, gives an additional strength to Selenium in the market. So now, why choosing Selenium? Again, given the 2 decades of Selenium already, the 30 years of Selenium. In those years, it has amassed quite some community. So it's the largest active test automation community in the world. They are actively optimizing the code. They are actively removing defects, adding features. So we have the largest community of test automation engineers. There is a high reliability of the automation engine. Again, because of the maturity, given that we have gone through 20 years of filtering in terms of bugs, in terms of optimization, the automation engine is more than ever reliable. So there is a support from multiple languages, major languages, mainstream languages like .NET, Java, Python, and we have access to their libraries as well. So if we want to implement something on top of Selenium, it is easy by just invoking those libraries. I'll just one example for the libraries. We can use Java libraries from Maven repository. for example, extend report, log4j. We have libraries for data compression, for file compression. So we can benefit from all these existing libraries when coding in C#. And it is the number one choice among automation tool. This is a study that was done this year by Railsware. So out of the polling done by professionals, it was deemed to be the first choice among all the existing tools. And we have a lot actually. In the market, automation tools are cropping up quite easily now. It's the market is flooded with automation tool. We have Playwright, we have Cypress, Catalan, Tosca. Those would be some of the automation tools which are coming to my mind. I've used quite a lot of them as well. So there are pros and cons, and we'll talk about that when Selenium actually gives a higher value compared to other tools. Selenium has a market share of 27.97%, which is again the highest market share. This is a study that was done by 6 Sense this year. So the other tools are getting traction, but given the large community engagement on Selenium, the market share is still very high. It is highly customizable with continuous innovation. So Selenium is highly customizable given its large language binding diversity, the access to the libraries. We can practically make anything out of Selenium actually to automate any web browser. And I like to use the term mother of all automation tools because Selenium has been inspiration, or at least the core of a lot of automation tools. For example, the Cucumber framework is based on Selenium. The Appium framework as well is using web drivers from Selenium, libraries from Selenium. The other tools like Playwright, Cypress as well are inspired from Selenium. So for me, Selenium is the mother of all automation tools. Once you learn Selenium, it's easy to onboard on any other automation tool because you get the underlying infrastructure of Selenium, and it is easier than to learn any other automation tool. That's my personal experience with Selenium and trying to learn other tools. Right. So moving on. Why is Selenium 4 a game changer? So when we are talking about Selenium 4, the major enhancement that did happen, or the optimization that did happen, was on the grid, the Selenium grid. So as of now, test sharding is possible with Selenium. So what do I mean by test sharding? Is to execute the test from a hub and the hub distributed to multiple nodes so that we can leverage on parallel testing, right? So on each node we have one browser, and then we can test the same test or different tests as well on different machine through the node. So that's test sharding. And then we have the parallel test execution. There is a slight difference between the two. Parallel test execution is to use a single machine device and then run the same test on multiple browsers at the same time. So then that would be execution on Firefox, on Chrome, on Edge, at the same time on the same machine. So that gives you a higher coverage, and this higher coverage is achieved in shorter time. The grid is as well compatible with a lot of test runners, mainstream test runners. So it integrates quite easily with major and existing test runners in the market. And it integrates easily as well with cloud infrastructure. So if you want to execute the test as well on cloud platforms, that's also possible with the integration of the new Selenium grid. And now concerning the improved WebDriver API. So new element locators, we've introduced in Selenium 4 new strategies to locate elements like friendly locators. We can specify where the element is with respect to another element, and then we can shift the focus to that new element and interact with it. Sometimes this is a good strategy to adopt because it is impossible then in some cases on some test platform as well to get an element uniquely by using existing locators. So then the Freddy locators become quite handy to help on this level. We have enhanced element integration where we can interact with element in a more optimized way, right? We have asynchronous script execution where tests could be executed outside the main thread of the WebDriver. So that's the improvement on the WebDriver API. We also have improved debugging and logging capacities on Selenium 4. The debugging tool is enhanced. There is comprehensive logging with exception, explanation about the exception, and sometimes as well recommendation when it is when an exception or an error cropped up. So you have a comprehensive logging, and you can customize the different logging details. You can customize it to be highly detailed or minimalist, where you have the minimum information then from Selenium 4. The W3C WebDriver protocol. So this is also a good enhancement in terms of the architecture of the WebDriver. So W3C is a World Wide Web Consortium. They have intensely reviewed the WebDriver architecture, and they deem it as being a recommendation for the WebDriver protocol. So we have the W3C recommendation now as Selenium 4. It means that, in big words, it means that it is highly compatible and interoperability with and its interoperability with other application is quite high in terms of browser, in terms of libraries, and in terms of execution platform, for example, on different operating systems. And one of my favorite feature is the Chrome DevTool protocol integration, where on Google Chrome you have the DevTools. You could use the DevTools to do in-depth analysis about, let's say, a request that was made by clicking on a button. It triggers an API call. You can monitor that API call. You can as well get the time of response from that API call. You can scan for errors like 404, error 500, and so on using the DevTools. So this integration allows in-depth analysis, and it is quite handy for testers when doing root cause analysis and in-depth analysis. So these will be the reason why Selenium 4 is a game changer. These are high-level reasons for Selenium 4. Right, now talking about the certification itself. So Selenium 4 certification. Well, this is applicable to any automation tool actually. To be able to automate correctly, we need to have the theoretical knowledge. We need to also have the practical knowledge. So in this case, the theoretical knowledge is covered in detail in MSTQB TAs. So that's test automation engineering. There is a new syllabus that was recently launched by MSTQB, the test automation engineering version 2.0. So this syllabus explains the theory of test automation. And then concerning the practical part, this is where the A4Q Selenium Tester Foundation comes into the picture, where you have an insight of the tool itself and also hands-on exercises with the tool. So you are able then to practice while it's taught on the theory side on the tool. But I would like to clarify this part that there is no dependency between these two certifications. You could go as well directly with Selenium Tester Foundation without going through MSTQB TA. In the Tester Foundation, there is the minimum necessary theoretical foundation that you need to start using Selenium. But if you want to learn in depth about the automation theory, then you'll need to go through test automation engineering. Right. So that's where Selenium 4 certification settles in the ecosystem. And now a change that we made with Selenium 4 certification. So it's now compatible with 2 programming languages. The syllabus is compatible with 2 programming languages. What I mean by that is that we are giving examples in 2 distinct programming languages, Python and Java. So let's say there is an example of looking onto a page. We'll have the code in the syllabus about how to implement it in Python and as well in Java. So now the question is, why choosing 2 different languages? So the idea is to open Selenium learning to the maximum audience that we can, and also to be industry relevant. The certification need to be industry relevant. In industry, Java is mostly used for automation on Selenium. And because of its extensible libraries that are available, and it can adapt to various project needs. So that's why Selenium is then preferred by the industry. Nevertheless, if Python is easy to use, and if you are someone new onto automation with no exposure to coding, then Python would be the better choice in that case. So Python and Java, it depends on let's say the need and the preference of as well the participant. The syllabus is in a case compatible with the 2 programming language. Now, in detail, what do you learn in the Selenium 4 certification? So the first thing is the test automation metric and reporting. This is an important part of test automation, to report and also to capture metric of the test execution. The test automation locators including XPath, CSS, and friendly locator. So these would be locators which are mostly used in the market: XPath, CSS selector, and friendly locators being the new one added to Selenium 4. You also get an insight on how to manage different windows, different tabs as well. So that becomes handy when you want to get started with parallel execution of tests. How to create maintainable tests on Selenium. This is important because on the long term, those tests need to be maintained, and sometimes automation project fails because they didn't cater for maintenance costs in automation. So this is given upfront in the certification. How to implement as well parallel execution of tests. This is discussed. This is some strategies are explained in the certification, in the syllabus. Using automation engine then for performance testing, that's also something feasible. We leverage a lot on headless testing and parallel execution then to make performance tests a reality using Selenium. How to maximize return on investment in test automation with Selenium. Yeah, this part will ensure that your project on Selenium is successful in the organization. Implementation of headless automation techniques in Selenium. We cover the headless in Chrome, in Python and Java, Google Chrome. So headless automation is about execution of a test where there is nothing on the UI. Everything is executed in the memory. So that's headless automation execution. And the last part is machine learning and test automation. So machine learning, AI, artificial intelligence, and automation are again game changers in the automation field, in the quality industry. So having an understanding of how machine learning can enhance an execution and reduce false positive is key for test execution. So therefore, this part as well is in the syllabus. You learn about self-healing tests, the learning phase of a self-healing framework, and the execution phase of such framework, the execution or the healing phase of such framework. So that would be machine learning and test automation. Right. Now, in terms of technology, what do we implement really in the course? So if we look at Python, the IDE that we are using in the course for practical is PyCharm. We use a test framework called PyTest. That PyTest is as well the test harness, and there is PyTest HTML that helps onto the reporting part. It creates HTML report on Python with Selenium. On the Java side, we are using IntelliJ, right, as the ID, the Integrated Developers Environment, using Maven to manage dependencies. So that's a framework to manage different dependencies, libraries that we are using on board our automation framework. Then we use TestNG. The TestNG is a test harness that allows assertion, allows parallelism of different tests, etc. And for reporting, we are using Extend Report. So that's also a reporting library that creates beautiful HTML for test reporting. Right. So these would be the technical side for the hands-on. Now, the question itself. When we talk about the question, that would be a 40 multiple choice question within an hour. The questions would be not related to any programming language as such. So you have the choice either to choose Java or Python. So in the exam, we cannot ask you code-related question. Nevertheless, there will be pseudo-type question. So pseudocode will be in the questions, and then based on the whatever you've practiced with Selenium 4, you could then use those techniques to come up to the right answer. The pass mark is 65%, so you need 26 question right to be able to clear the exam. So that would be the Selenium 4 examination. You can book your examination on alliance4qualification.com. On the side as well, if ever you're looking for training providers as well, you could search on alliance4qualification.com for accredited training providers. Yeah, so that's about the question, and it's 1 hour. Right, moving on. Yeah, that was my last slide. So thank you. I'm open to questions if we have any.
Lovelesh, thank you so much for an excellent presentation. I believe we do have a couple of questions from the audience. First off, do I need to go through a formal training to prepare for the A4Q Selenium for Tester Foundation certification?
Right. So the way that we made the syllabus and the learning as well is hybrid. So you can go through self-study, or you can go through a formal training then through an accredited training provider. So for self-study, I would recommend those who have some exposure to automation, some experience already with Selenium or other automation tool, and some practical hands-on with programming languages. Then they could go for self-study. Otherwise, a formal training is always preferred as well, because you get the trainer support, and the chances of clearing the exam is then higher. So you could choose either self-study or formal training.
The next question branches off on exactly that. Can I still go for the certification if I do not have a background in programming?
Right. So when we talk about the practical side, the exams or the examples that are given for the practical exercises, we start from a Hello World program, from the very basic, and from there we build up to include WebDriver, to include the navigation, the different action API, etc., to make it let's say a complete test framework then in that case. So a background in programming is definitely helpful. Even if you don't have it, then the course is still relevant, because you would then be given the libraries that you need to implement it. Nevertheless, I would like to clarify that the Selenium 4 certification is not a course in Java, it's not a course in Python. So you need to keep that in mind, because you will be given, in terms of programming, the strict minimum needed to be able to implement automation. You will not be learning in detail the programming language. Yeah.
With that being said, would you advise that Java and Python both be learned as part of the Selenium syllabus?
Right. So you have an option. It's either Java or Python, but if you can do both, why not? It's always good to have a new programming language. In this way, you could compare as well. let's say the advantages of using Selenium with Java and the advantages and disadvantages of using Python with Selenium. So different organizations have different needs, right? So in order not to have the programming language bias, so what I mean by that is if you are at ease with Python, in each organization that you will be working as a test automation engineer, you will implement only Python. So in order to leave that bias behind, if you have the time and you have the resources to actually learn both, that would be an advantage for sure. Yeah, but it is not mandatory.
You mentioned language bias and you mentioned tool bias in your presentation. Which tool is best for automating test cases?
Right. So now I'll talk about the tool bias then. So the tool bias is learning one tool and then implementing that tool itself in all the organizations that you're working. So you have a certain, let's say, preference for a tool because you know it better. You know the tool better. So different cases, different organizations, different scenarios have different needs, right? Some organization operate in an ecosystem where open source applications and open source technology are preferred. So in those cases, you would move maybe towards Selenium and Python or Java. In other cases where we need, let's say, commercial licensed products, so then in that case you might go towards Catalan Studio or Tosca for that need. That's just one simple example. But again, in the certification, these are discussed actually the factors that you need to consider before implementing an automation tool. In that case, we have to keep in mind that we should not be having those biases because even an organization, when they're implementing automation somewhere, you need to do an evaluation. You have to consider the different pros and cons of Playwright, of Cypress, of Selenium, and then you select from there. So to answer this question, there is no best tool. It depends on the cases. It depends as well on the organization budget, etc. So there is a lot of factors that need to be considered before selecting a tool. There is no best tool as such.
Lovelesh, very well said, and thank you again so much for your very insightful presentation. I believe that you've given our viewers a lot to think about with regards to the Selenium 4 tester certification from A4Q. I'd like to just remind our viewers that there is a voting panel open for Lovelesh and our other speakers. You can access this on our program, on our website. And if you did, in fact, enjoy Lovelesh's presentation today, please feel free to hop on over to the program and give him your best vote. Lovelesh, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Abby.